Awesome. Hey guys, thank you guys for joining in on my stream. Today I will be working on the Sprite Darter cosplay wings. So, as you guys have probably seen on my feeds, this build is actually going to be sponsored by Cosplay Supplies here in North America, which is our main supplier of Werbla here in North America. Yeah. Okay, did I just repeat myself? Okay, so today I've got my Inkscape here prepared. So I've got a couple people have asked me a couple questions about this. So the main thing is I use Inkscape for making my cosplay patterns. It's actually a free software, so it's an alternative for Adobe Illustrator. And I prefer to use I prefer to use Inkscape mainly because the interface is a little bit easier for me to use. So I'll just kind of walk you guys through this. I've also got some keybinds here on the bottom left of my screen. So on this part here, you'll see that, here I can show you like my little keybinds and stuff. I'll be watching out for chat for any of your questions, so feel free to ask. I'm kind of working on a one monitor setup as I'm in a temporary setup right now, so I'm kind of looking off to the side to see what kind of questions you might have. So that being said, you can see here my mouse has little red circles. That means I am left clicking on the mouse, and then if you see a blue circle, that means I'm right clicking. So you can kind of see here in the bottom left what I'm doing. So okay, so to start off with, you'll need a reference picture. And in this case, in this case, I have a screenshot where you can see the most flat view of the wings. And yeah, you just copy and paste a screenshot or whatever best reference you can find. So this version I will be vectoring is the in-game transmog version. I will be having 3 patterns on this available for free on my website as soon as I finish. So this will be one of them. On my story feed, I am making another version. I think it's from Africal. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Africal on Instagram on their version of the wings. So yeah, let's get started here. So you're going to make your first layer with the reference picture. So in this case, I've already copied and pasted it. The scaling doesn't matter right now. We can do that last. As that's the great part of working with vectors is that they're lossless whenever you need to scale up and down. So the first layer will be here, just your default layer. My workspace, I like to show my layers, and then I like to show my fill and stroke here and transform. Those are like the main windows you want to have displayed on your workspace. So layers here, and then fill and stroke, and then transform for scale. But that's not transform is not really important right now. That's for scaling. So let's have our layers panel showing. And you can see I like to hit Control S a lot for saving because I don't trust Inkscape sometimes. It sometimes crashes when I do crazy vectors. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to change the opacity of your reference picture a little more transparent so it doesn't confuse you when you are working with your vector. So you want to highlight your reference picture right here, which is your first layer. You can also rename it by right-clicking here just for your own reference. So I like to rename it reference picture or reference pic. And then from there you change the opacity. And then what you're going to want to do next is you're going to want to lock that layer in. Hi, how's it going? Yeah, I haven't streamed in a while, so yeah, this will be fun. Yeah, so you're going to want to lock your layer in, and then you're going to change the opacity, make it a little lighter so you can differentiate between your vectors and your reference pics. So that being said, you're going to want to create a new layer right here and press the plus. And I like to call it cut because that's the main one I want to cut when I print it out. Okay, so to start on vectoring, you're going to want to draw Bezier. It's called Bezier curves, but it's called like the pen tool. So this is where you're going to want to select it. So what I like to start is I like to, this is a little different from like Fusion 360 where you want to click on everything like that, but you don't want to do that in Inkscape. What I like to do in Inkscape is pretend that these little boxes or nodes are like points and strings, you're gonna, I like to use a method where I like to massage my curves until I'm happy with the curves. I can hear yourself twice. I need to close my other one? Oh, really? Am I can hear, okay, I don't know, maybe I don't have Twitch running in a browser window on the same PC, so it's just non-copyright music, I want to say. Okay, I'm kind of like looking off to the side because I can't run it on the same. I only have a one monitor setup here on my laptop. Anyways, so if you want to navigate or move across your workspace here on Inkscape, you're gonna want to use your mouse or middle click here and hold it down until you're happy with the space. So you can see that it's moving here, and then you're gonna want to select your Bezier curve here. Just click it once, and then to set nodes here, you left click once, and then here I like to show like where I'm going to put them. So I like to put them where I feel like I'm gonna need to put a curve most. So this is the way I kind of do it, but you can do it whatever way you want. So yeah, there you go. So here I'm kind of putting my lines first where there are major curves. So here in this case, it's gonna go like this, but we can adjust that later. So you just draw like a simple outline here. And this one's a pretty easy vector that I chose compared to the other designs. That's why I chose this one. Okay, so you can see that this one slightly has a curve here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this tool right here called Edit Paths. It's like F2 if you like to use keybinds, but I don't really use keybinds much here. In Inkscape, I'm going to press Control S while I remember, just as a habit. So Edit Paths by Nodes is like you see your little arrow here. It's kind of pointed. Pointed, and you just basically massage this curve like this. Okay, and then I'm using my middle click again to navigate the vector. If you want to zoom in and out, you're going to want to hold control and wheel up or down based on if you want to zoom in or out. So you zoom in, you control wheel up, as you can see there. So again, I massaged the vectors here, and for me, I don't like this pointy curve, so I kind of there's like these little path things. I don't know what they're called. Oh, they're called Bezier handles. They're like this. You can kind of move the paths a little bit. They're kind of sticking out from this node. It's kind of like the string part. So you basically massage the curve until you like it. I'm not really sure if Illustrator Acts is similar to this. So yeah. So basically it's a lot of rinse and repeat from those massaging the curves until you like it. So yeah, in this case I'm just showing an example of how I do it. And here, so you can see this curve right here. There's like a small S curve here. So what I like to do is I like to take it on the top part. And what you want to do is if you want to set like a little point here, you just double click. So you see there's a little box right there. So again, you can play with your little Bezier handles here, and then you can stretch it out just like that. Same thing goes for the point. So there's no node here yet. So if you want to do, you just pull it here. If you want to hold it, like if you want to hold that little line there, you just double click. And again, you keep massaging until you like it. So here you can see it's kind of not exactly where I want it to be. So you stretch it out a little bit like this, and I don't like this curving like just pinched in like that. So you just take your Bezier handle and you massage it again. So far I like the shape that it looks like right now. Now when it comes to WoW and 3D models, sometimes if you look at your reference picture, there might be really straight lines here, but I don't really care so much about that, so I just kind of do the best I can. It doesn't have to be super perfect, it's just the way, it just has to be perfect enough to the way you want it. Okay, so there's your curve right there, and you can see that smooth curve kind of goes along with the reference picture. So just do note when you do curve and play around with your lines, sometimes there's going to be pinching points, so you want to keep adjusting those if you notice it gets off a little bit. But yeah, that's it. So there's the curve here. So far I don't see any questions on this yet, so I'll keep on going. So here, I do see like another curvy part right here. And again, massage it there until you like it. So literally, I feel like with these kinds of programs, you just kind of adopt the very basic drawing methods until you rinse repeat a lot with it until you get comfortable enough with it. So you can see I'm going a little bit more quickly because like I kind of feel more confident about how this curve is going. So here we're gonna go to the last part here, and we can see slightly little bits. There's where the curve ends up, and so forth with this part here. You just double click and you double click again to set a node. Now, one question that I have had before is how do you delete nodes? So these little boxes here, these little points here are called nodes. If you want to delete them, you just single click on them and then you simply just press delete. So when you do that, you will notice that it lets go of the line a little bit. It's kind of like letting go of the line. So I use this technique a lot actually with using a lot of curves or drawing curves. So sometimes if you, for example, just kind of showing an example, if you do like a little zigzag here, you will have nodes because that's where you selected it or where you put it when you made your line. But when you delete it, this is what happens. This is like a really exaggerated form, but if you delete it, it becomes curved. So see how it becomes curved? That's how it becomes curved. Now if you want to add it back, you just double click. But if you notice, if you want to massage it, it's going to be hard to get that pointy bit part. So if you want to get your pointy bit part back, there's like a tool right here. So this is where you can let go of the nodes so it can kind of do this. I don't know how to explain that, but it becomes a it doesn't move together. But if you use this again, like make selected nodes smooth, if you go up and down, it kind of just goes around like a seesaw. But if you break the node a little bit, it'll just go more angular, to give you an explanation of that. So now if I want to delete this whole thing, I just use my selecting cursor here. And then you just highlight that, press delete. That was just an example. So yeah, it's fairly straightforward here. You just have to practice enough until you get comfortable with it. So I feel like relaxed curves like this are easier to work with. I don't like working with swirls as much, even though sometimes I like to challenge myself, mainly because it's more time consuming on trying to get the swirls the way I want it to be. So here, this is where I finish up this particular curve right here. And sometimes I like to look at my work from far away, like even when I'm working on physical items, like when I'm working on foam or Worbla, I like to, you know, take a step back and see how I did. So in this case, if you want to take a step back, you just zoom out by going Control and wheel down on your mouse, and then you can move around with your middle click. And you can use this little eye icon to disable your reference picture. It's still there, you just disable it. So this is the little curve we've done so far on our live stream, to give you an idea. So normally it takes me, some vector like this can probably take me like maybe 30 minutes or so, mainly because of the little details that go in here. But for this purpose, it'll go just a little longer or so. We'll just see how this goes. Mainly because I'm kind of walking through how this goes in real time. If you guys have seen some of my YouTube channel, it's more on time lapse, because I kind of want to show like the super sped up version of how I do my vectors. But in reality, it can take anywhere between 15 minutes to a couple days, because I like to take breaks in between. So here I just added a little fold right here. Yeah, I don't really draw vectors with like a tablet, because I tried that once and the lines weren't as accurate as I wanted them to be. So that's why I don't vector with, or I mean, I don't do line drawings with a tablet. But I draw entirely with my mouse for most of these vectors, so that's how I usually go. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to start drawing these little stained glass looking vein things. So the thing that's unique about these Sprite darter wings is that they're just really colorful, so I thought this was a great opportunity to just pick this project for this sponsorship. So yeah, it'll showcase different mixed media parts on this. So here I'm actually drawing the moon part of the Sprite darter wings. Each wing has like a little moon symbol. Not really, it doesn't really mean anything, it's just kind of like the design part of it. So here I'm just showing you how I do my circles. It's not like a perfect circle, but this is kind of a little more tricky compared to what I did with the regular wings. So again, it's a lot of massaging your nodes. And then for here, I don't like having an angular node, so I just delete it right there. And then set it again, and then here I can delete it to curve it out a little bit. See, if you notice, if I delete nodes, the other nodes get affected a little bit. So you just kind of have to trial and error to see what you like. So that's that, and we're gonna basically do, yeah, let's see, for these ones, these look like teardrops. So when I do teardrop shapes, I do like one node here, and then back, connect it back. So when it turns red, that's when it connects back, and then you just kind of have to stretch it like this, set a node there to lock it in place, and same thing goes right here. Yep, so that's that. That's one of the little teardrop shapes. I can change it up a little bit. It's not exactly accurate to the reference picture, but I mean, who's gonna really notice that? Like, only we will, right? So, but if you want to remove that angular part, just go ahead and delete that node, and then that frees up the angular part. It's really a preference, so it's really up to you how you want to do your nodes. So again, rinse repeat. Here we're drawing teardrops until we get it the way we want it. Okay, so there's that, and then this one's not really a teardrop shape, but you can kind of play with it a little bit. So if you want to just modify your teardrop shape a little bit, just put one line here, and then one line here, and then connect it back. So again, it turned red to connect back. When you connect it back, you can do this, and it just goes wherever you want to put it. So I'm going to stretch this out by dragging it here, locking it in place with a double click of a node. Same thing here. And let's curve this point a little bit. See, we got a little curve right there. Alright, so it's straightened out, and then from here I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit like that. Doesn't have to be super accurate. So for little details like this, I wouldn't pay too much attention to trying to get it as perfect as you want. Again, the little detail part of this is all personal preference, so it can look slightly different. The main takeaway is the shape of this is the shape of the reference picture. I believe that's the most important part. Anything like with the details here can you can massage it a little bit based on your own preference, as long as you keep keep the integrity of the original design the way you want it, because you know everybody has different ways of working on this cosplay. This is just like a base that you can use, but there is no right way or wrong way to do the cosplay. Again, it's all up for fun grabs and stuff. Okay, so I'm continuing with this part right here. This one's more of a square design, so for this one you could just massage the points a little bit so it looks more natural to the design. So for those of you who are tuning in to my live stream, I will have this cosplay pattern up on my website when I'm done working on it. I will have 3 versions of this pattern. The other version I'm working on later is the Samwise original concept art that was done by done a couple years ago. I don't remember. Was it 2003? I don't even remember. Or maybe I don't know. I'd look at the picture again. But it's one of those. I'm just doing the concept art of that one because I noticed that there's different versions of these wing shapes. Okay, so here I am drawing just the little, what I call the stained glass vein parts. What I like about this is that in WoW, the actual wings are like chameleons and they change colors, just randomly change colors, and I think that's pretty cool. But here, if you look at the static version of these wings, they're kind of a little gradient of different colors. So I think it's pretty cool. I know it was kind of odd random backlash about the release of these Sprite Darter Wings, but I think it's kind of cute as like maybe more casual cosplay. For those of you who have been to BlizzCon and or want to go to BlizzCon one day when it's safer again, usually on day one we have everybody wearing their big debut costumes that people have been working on all year. But on day 2 of BlizzCon, we usually kind of go more casual. So this is like the perfect casual kind of cosplay. I mean, if you're gonna go to like a day 2 of BlizzCon, this is kind of like a more like casual thing. In years past, we've done things like wear kigus or onesies. So if you guys have seen the March of the Murlocs, that was actually really cool. It was like a day 2 like thing for everyone to do. I think that March of the Murlocs, I think it started in 2018, I think. And then last year they had like a new red version of the Murloc costume, so I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if they're gonna do it again this year. This year's for BlizzCon, since I know it's gonna be online. But let's see what they have in store. I think they had some plans of it, but I mean I'm not entirely sure about that. Okay, so here I am drawing the stained glass again. The stained glass patterns kind of vary, so it's kind of like whatever at this point. Again, it's just literally a lot of massaging nodes until you like them. So I think this was a good practice one to work on. When you work on drawing references, like I actually clean up my vectors or clean up my drawings when I do my costumes. So sometimes I will draw them by hand and then I'll scan them into my computer using like a JPEG format, JPEG or PNG. It's preferred probably use JPEG because it's like you don't really need the high res. You just need the lines. And then same concept, that would be my reference picture. You would change the layers of opacity to be a little bit more transparent so you can see where you're putting your lines. Okay, so yeah, here we're actually working on a pretty good pace here. Once I'm done with the stained glass part or the stained glass vein parts here, I will work on the little details that are kind of optional. I noticed that on this particular version, this set of wings has little ridges on like the vein parts. So for that part, if you are making this out of foam, you could use like a wood burning tool. Make sure you wear protective gear because when you burn EVA foam, it releases like toxic fumes. You don't want to smell that. Or when you're working on this with Werbla, you could probably use the same thing without... Actually, no, you could use like a Dremel tool even. So here we are just doing the rest of this part here. And there we go. Oh man. Yeah, it's fun. Like it's like a pretty chill Sunday today. I like this. So we're about halfway done with these stained glass parts. And yeah, it looks like we're working at a pretty good pace here. Okay. So these ones are pretty simple to do, mainly because these are more straight lines. So it's just kind of like fine-tuning how you want to do these parts. Okay. And here's more stained glass parts. I'm kind of curious to see how I'm going to do this. I'm kind of I was thinking about doing Werbla on the vein parts and then making the little windows translucent, and then what I'm gonna probably do is when I prime the translucent parts, I will use frosted... There's this spray paint you can get from, I think it's Rust-Oleum brand, and it basically, you can make your piece like frost. I've never actually tried that method, experimented with airbrushing, but I think it'll be a viable method to use. Like, I'm pretty hyped up about that. So here we go with this part right here. Oh, did I? Oh, okay. Let me, okay, so there's my little thingies here. Yeah, so again, if you have any more questions, you can feel free to message me on Instagram or whatever, and then I'll try to address them the best I can with these, because I know I've been getting quite a bit of inquiries on how I do my patterns and stuff, so I decided to stream this in real time. Yep, okay, so here we go with this one right here. Yeah, so let's see, this one's not that complicated, but the thing is, when it comes to like patterning, I have to be like in the super concentrated mood to get started on these, since I can be a little lazy, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, who isn't? Okay, so there we go. Let's take a step back and see how it looks like. So let's disable this, and so far during this stream, this is what we've gotten so far. I think we're at a pretty good pace. So far we've been streaming for like 30 minutes now. Wow, time goes by really fast. Okay, so this one's more of like an oval shape. And if you want to see me kind of zoom past all of these vectors in a more quickly format, this is where I'm going to be doing it at. So in the beginning of this stream, I kind of showed all the basic tools that you would need for doing these kind of patterns. But here, let's see how fast we can blow through all these let's see how fast we can blow through all these stained glass parts right here. Let's see. Okay. Okay, let's see here. We're just kind of doing some like teardrop shaped stuff here, and yeah, see, I mean, like sometimes when I'm working on these patterns, like right now, I'm not really thinking how I'm gonna work on it, because I feel like I would vector a little differently if I recommended specific materials to work with. Like when we're working with EVA foam, one thing I want to note is that you sometimes would consider thicknesses more than yeah, like thicknesses are more important when you're working with exclusively EVA foam, but when you're working with Worbla, not so much, because I mean, Worbla is always the same thickness. It's always going to be like less than a millimeter or about a millimeter in thickness. I don't know, I have to check the specs, but each material has its own pros and cons. I enjoy working with Worbla because of its adhesive factor and its anti-gravity properties. And one of my favorite parts about Worbla is you can throw your armor piece across the room and it won't really break. Maybe it'll chip a little bit, but not so much. Whereas, like, if you're wearing foam, I love how lightweight it is and versatile did I say foam? No, foam is, and the only thing is it's more sensitive to like damage, so if you like hit a door or something, it might get cracked and it's a little more difficult to repair. Okay, so let's try to zoom more through these. Oh snap. Okay, so you see that red line right there where I connected the nodes and whatnot. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. Alright, so for those of you tuning, hello, thank you for joining in my stream. Right now I'm on quickly doing this quick part here. Just kind of blasting really quickly through these because this is like a lot of details to have to cover. So right here you can just see I'm doing basic patterning here based on my interpretation of this pattern part right here. Like, these are just little details, like we don't really notice all of these so much, mainly because it's like details, but when you put it all together it looks cool. Okay, so here it's just pixels we're working with. Okay, and then there you go. So So I'm actually really excited for Shadowlands. It's coming out soon. I still haven't decided what I'm going to main, but right now I enjoy playing Hunter, and for tanks I enjoy playing a Demon Hunter, but I haven't actually dug further deep into Demon Hunter changes with the new patch that just came out. And that's something I still have to play with. Okay. So I'm gonna bum because I mean I understand there's this whole like new ban on multi-boxing, and I just kind of started trying to learn how to multi-box, but I was doing it for like fun. I don't really gather stuff. I'm more the type that just, you know, doesn't have that much time to play the game, so I would rather just buy a WoW token and call it a day. I don't really have time for gathering professions, so I think that was the primary reason for that. So yeah, and it was fun, but it's really difficult to play multi-boxing. Yeah. Oh, hi, thank you for joining in. So yeah, this wing progress so far is like the simpler one of the other designs that I'm doing. So here's what we've got so far, and this is like the real basic stuff, but yeah, we're gonna, if you can see here, there's like little veins or whatever. We'll kind of cover that after these little stained glass parts are done, or at least I like to call it. And I'm just gonna draw guidelines for that, but it doesn't really it's not like super required. I'm a gatherer for my guild. Oh, okay, yeah, so that works. Yeah, see, I'm kind of like lazy when it comes to like WoW stuff. Like, I just want to play the game and just level. I don't really want to gather because I'm lazy. I know I started playing WoW Classic a little bit, and I was working on herbalism, and oh my gosh, the competition is fierce for WoW Classic. It's been a while since when I started playing WoW, I started in Burning Crusade, so not exactly vanilla. So, yeah, I didn't really gather much, and I'm not really good, honestly, at making money in WoW because, again, I just want to play the game. Yeah, so right here, okay, so yeah, I am doing different versions. Thank you. Right here, I'm just kind of doing what I call the bevel curve. So when you're doing what do you call it? When you're trying to angle your pieces, your wings, this will be like bevel details right here. Sometimes in my older designs, I like to make this line a little bit lighter so you can distinguish that this is not a cut line but a Dremel line. So let me just put this here. This is, again, this part in my opinion is optional, so if you want to change the thickness of your line, you can go highlight your line part right here and go to your fill and stroke, and you're gonna go to stroke style, and I like to work in points. So this is usually like it when you work with Inkscape, it defaults to 0.75 points or whatever. So for here I'll probably change it to like 0.3 so you can distinguish between the lines, so you can see one is thicker than the other. I like leveling. I'm an herb and alchemist. Yeah, that works together. Like, sometimes when you're just AFKing in a city, either in Stormwind or Orgrimmar, whether you're Horde or Alliance or whatever, it's nice to just level the professions. It, like, for me, it kind of gives me satisfaction to know that I'm like, hey, look at my points. They're leveling up. Like, skilled professions in WoW are leveling up. And yeah, it just like makes me happy when I see it leveling up. Like for me, when I'm playing WoW Classic, I get more satisfaction leveling professions compared to like retail, since in Classic it's kind of more important that we have like professions, since we actually use them more like for utility and whatnot. Like, I already forgot the importance of first aid until, like, I started playing Classic again. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to level my first aid, and then have to level all my cooking. And WoW, I already don't really do that. And, like, in my opinion, the most boring part of WoW is fishing. All you have to do is AFK and point your little... what's it called? The little thing that bounces in WoW so you can collect your fish. Luckily, my guild helps with my herbs the way I make pots for everyone. Hey, that works. It's good to be the alchemist for the guild. I know you need your raid flasks and everything, and your consumables. When I was playing in Burning Crusade, I was more of a DPSer. I was always a DPS main when I used to raid. I switched what kind of classes I played though over time. So when I was in Burning Crusade, I mained a rogue, so I had to level my poisons, and then I had to level, I don't even remember what I was. I was a leather worker and a skinner back then. Yeah, I hate fishing too. Yeah, so, alright, so for here, I'm gonna draw, like, the little bevel curves right here. Again, this part is optional. I don't really, like, this is, like, super optional. But I'll add it anyway. Some people like to add bevels in their wings, so I'll just go ahead and do that. So, for bevels and wings, I'll just kind of put it right here. Make the line a little bit thinner so you can distinguish between the two. In other old patterns that I've done, I've changed the color of my bevels, my bevel curves, just to distinguish between the two. But just to keep in mind, not everybody has a color printer, so I feel like it's much easier to distinguish this with a lighter weight line. So I'm gonna put 0.5 here, actually 0.3, because I think that's more more distinguishable between the thick line and the thin lines. Okay, so there's that. I know like multiple people have their different styles on working on patterning, so this is like the kind of style I like to work with, mainly considering because of the fact that not everybody has a color printer. So the question is, how do you keep all the lines even through your design? So I like to work with nodes. So these little point thingies, pointy box things are like areas that hold the lines down. So for here in the beginning of the stream, I started with the reference picture. So you can see in the back, it's got the reference picture in the back, and you lower the opacity down. So you can see that's the reference. You just kind of trace over it. And when I do this method of tracing, I do trace, like you put one point here. Oh wait, that layer's locked. I'll put this point here and here, for example, and then you use this little pointy tool here. It's called Edit Paths to kind of massage the curve the way you want it. And if you like it there, if you like to hold it there, you just double click and put a you just double click and you put your line or your node right there. Oh, I see the shine. Okay, yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but the reference picture is in the background. Yeah, so that's how I do it, and I just, if I like the line there, I'll keep it there. And if you want to delete this, you just highlight this and just press delete. So when I do my bevels or when I do my drawings, I always have a reference picture because I have no idea where I'm going with these things. I don't like to draw with a blank canvas on these because I have no clue where I'm going. You know what? I'm actually not going to draw the pattern for the shoulder because I'm only just going to do the wing. I'm not going to do that shoulder attachment piece. So here we go. When I do this part, you can see I have straight lines just like that. So I use that as my basis as to where I'm going to place the bevels next. So I kind of click and drag here. If I like it, I will double click there and see it holds it in place. So if I need to move stuff here, you can see that it held in place. So for this part, you see these handles. This is kind of how you control your curves a little bit. You can also do it this way, but you can. I would recommend doing it here too. I mean, it's really up to you. It's kind of massaging it. I like to massage it until you like it. Okay, so right there, I locked it in place with that node. And okay, so here it's a little not where I want it to be, so I'm gonna move it from here instead. So double click to lock it, and it looks like it naturally did a nice curve there, so I think I'll leave that as is. Okay, so there's our little bevel curve there to kind of distinguish where that needs to be. I will just probably put this right here, just cause. And right here, I think this is more of a freestyle thing. So here, this is just like detail patterns. Yeah, here I'm just gonna draw a little lighter lines to kind of say, hey, these are just detail parts. It is super windy where you are because near me, I'm in your county near. Oh, okay, yeah, it is actually windy outside. I'm actually in, yeah, I'm still in Orange County area, so yeah, it is pretty windy outside today. But I mean, at least it's not hot. I mean, compared to like what 2 weeks ago we had fires. That was scary. Yeah. So but now it seems to be okay. So right here, I'm kind of just drawing detail lines. So right here, you could probably this part here, you could probably make stuff something like horns or whatever. But again, there's no right or wrong way to how to do this. So I would say these are more like wood burning tool details that you could do here. Yeah, this would be great for that. Okay, so I'm just gonna draw like a line here to curve it. So what you could also do with Inkscape too is if you want to do a curved line right off the bat, you could click here and then you can hold down your mouse button, so like this, and then you can kind of move it around like that. I personally don't prefer to do it this method because I run out of space on my mouse pad, so I would just make it a straight line and then curve it later. You have more control if you do it that way. So here's this part right here. And right here, I want to curve this a little bit. So let me just move this here. Just a little bit. I'm kind of freestyling these details right now. It doesn't have to look like this on the real stuff, but I'm just kind of freestyling this part. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, this is kind of like what is going on here, but it's like, again, it's just details. So if you want to select multiple nodes, you just press your shift and then shift click on your lines that you want to select, and then you want to use your arrow buttons. You can see I can move these around if I want to. You can see I didn't select one, so I need to select it again with this tool here, and then one more time. So here you can move your little stuff around. If you want to group these together, you just press Ctrl G and you can see it's all grouped together. So if you deselect it and you select it again, it's grouped together. But I'm going to press Ctrl Z to move it back where I want to go. So here you can actually select all your grouped lines here as a whole and then go fill and stroke. And then if you want to change it all together at once, I'm going to change this to 0.3. So you can see they all changed at once. If you want to change one at a time while they're still grouped, you can do that. You just select it using your edit paths by node. Because these paths are not connected to each other, you can select it using this arrow thing, edit paths by node, and then you can just change the thickness here. So if you want to change it to like 1, it's just that one piece there. Okay, so the question is, do you add details to areas even if there isn't anything there, or if there's something not there, or whatever? Yes, so it's kind of a freestyle thing. This is the part of the cosplay where you can kind of go open interpretation, especially for reference pictures where you can't really see up close details on it. So yeah, I can do that sometimes. So, but I try to stick to it as close to the original as possible. But yeah, you can do that. Yeah, so for right here, you can kind of hardly see it, but I'm just gonna start adding little details. So here I'm gonna just make straight lines. To deselect it, you right click. So if you want to do that, and that's it. So I want to do one line here and then deselect it with my right click. If I want to put one line here, you put this and you right click. Okay, so here I like to make sure my lines can actually touch here. And then from here I can just curve it a little bit. So I'm going to curve it a little to how I want it. It doesn't have to be like this, but it's just optional. Again, this is my style, so you can do whatever you want with this part. It doesn't have to be like this. So let's see here. I can kind of change up the style a little bit just so it makes sense. Like I have a thing where it's like it kind of makes sense to my style or standards or whatever. So these lines here, I'm actually going to make them thinner so you can tell or distinguish the difference here. When you're working on this in the actual cosplay, I would recommend doing the bevel cuts first and then using like a wood burning tool to add these afterwards. Okay, so I see there's like little veins coming out here just a little bit, so I'm gonna add maybe this to do that. Okay, so those are like my beginning detail parts here. And then from there we just keep going here. I feel like we're almost done with this pattern. This was a pretty quick pattern for me to do. But again, I don't become super good or whatever overnight. I've been vectoring since 2015 out of lots of practice. Like when I first start like learning off a program, it was very frustrating trying to learn at first, but once you just keep going at it, it'll become more natural to work with. Like for me, I still have a struggle with Fusion 360, which is what I use for 3D modeling, but it is what it is. Like sometimes when I just want to, you know, bevel parts, it's like, why won't you bevel? It's like, this one is more friendly for me to use, at least to learn with, so I'm happy with it. Okay, so let's see here. I think I've gotten a good grip on how these details are going. So right here, I'm going to add maybe, let's see, let's start here. This one's kind of open to interpretation like this. So these look like little forks, I would say. So let me add these. I think, yeah, these parts right here are kind of like open to interpretation. Let's see here, and then I mean, if you need a reminder of how the details look like, you can just go back to your layers and go to your reference picture and increase the opacity again. But I mean, I feel like we're at a pretty good pace here as to where we're going. Yeah, so here we're gonna see, I can't add any nodes here because obviously that layer is locked. So you're gonna want to go back to your cut layer here. So if you're familiar with Photoshop, it's very similar. Okay, so that's that, and then this kind of reminds me of veins off plants, because the thing about Sprite darter wings is that they look more organic a little bit. They look like they're obviously more like nature and not like fancy pointy things so much. So this is more like I would say, yeah, you could probably use the same method when you're working with like leaf designs, when you're doing the veins of these. So let's see, I'm not so sure about this particular one right here, so let me start with something that's more obvious. So right here, this is more obvious, so let's do that right here. Again, I'm going to change the thickness of these little details so you can kind of distinguish them apart. But yeah, I can't wait to see how these come out when whoever's working on these wings, I want to see how you guys do them. I'm really excited about these. Like, we could all use more Sprite darter wings, right? Okay, so let me just change this a little bit. I'm kind of going freestyling on these details. I mean, let's see what we have so far. So far, that's what we have. And sometimes if you want to just work with certain layers, then you don't want to select these like stained glass things that I did earlier today. Just be sure to not select those parts. So I'm just gonna select these parts first, and let's see. Let's actually move it to another layer. So let's see, veins maybe. If you want to work with the layers or certain parts separately, like these are just the veins. You can actually select this and go right click on it and go to move to layer, and then select veins. Like I named it veins already. So what you could do is, if you're working on different sets at a time, see how I see only the veins. Sometimes I don't want to see the veins, but make sure that when you are working with these multi-layers, you want to lock layers at a time so you don't accidentally, you know, mess with the wrong layers that you didn't want to work with. Yeah, this particular design does have a lot of veins. The other ones I've noticed, like the fan art versions, I don't notice veins in them, but I do notice more, what do you call it? More stick thingies? Like here, it's more solid on these little, purple sections here, but this one actually has like those little leafy looking veins. Let's see here. Okay, I want to put it like here. Make it look like branches a little bit. And then this one, yeah, let's put it right here a little bit more. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, let's put it here. Okay, I think that's good enough, I think, in my opinion. I mean, for myself. Here we can just do something here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just putting something that makes sense, I guess. Okay, there's that. Yeah, so, if you're just tuning in now, we're pretty much almost finished with this. I'm just adding little details right now. So this one kind of has like a vein that goes like this. Like this. You know, this is completely optional. So when you're working with the most important takeaway of these wings is that you got the main shape down. When I'm done with the overall design, I will talk about how I scale these and kind of go from there. So when I scale these wings or just any general cosplay part and I'm vectoring them, I don't always start with them to scale. But if I already know the scale, like if I draw something on like if I draw something in real life, like on paper and then I scan it, then that should be the actual scale that it should be. So when you are scanning your reference pictures into like Inkscape or whatnot, when you scan hand-drawn, stuff and you already know it's on scale on your hand, you want to keep it at that 100% scale. For that particular topic, I'll probably keep it as a separate video to make, not like a live stream, but actually just a separate video to put on YouTube, so I can discuss how that works. Because I know it's a little different of a concept versus just general drawing here. Because right now we're just doing general drawing. I don't think these ones have veins, but I'm just gonna go ahead and add some just because. For fun. Okay, so that has been added. Now there's like these little few ones left. They almost look like spider webs in some ways. Okay, so there's that. I don't like how I did that one, so I'm gonna change it up right there. Okay. And let's see here. This one's kind of like a web. So let's do it like this a little bit. Yeah, I don't like that curve so much. So I want to make it look more like veins. I don't like that there. I'm gonna change it. Okay, I think that looks better. And I think there's one more set here. Let's see. I think it connects here. And I think this final one connects like this. Okay. Does that look decent enough? I think it's okay. Oh, there's actually some more down here. Okay, I just realized that at the end. Okay. So there's like maybe, let's see here. Okay, I'm kind of freestyling this part right here. Let's see, I want to put this down more. That doesn't look super natural, but here, let's make it more interesting. Yeah, this one is okay. I'm gonna connect back to this one right here and put this one right here. Yeah, not every like vein part has like those details, but I guess I could add that in there. Well, I mean the other parts don't really show, only like this area here. They're kind of like void spots to add details in. Why not? Let's go for it. Okay. Okay, so like let's see here. This one kind of looks like a little hand, so let's add that in there. Okay, so let me see here. Okay, so that's good. I think that's good enough. Yeah, there are so many lines, but that's why I like to distinguish them. It's not always good for me to keep them all the same thickness lines because it gets hard to tell them apart. So, oops, let's zoom out there. Yeah, it gets confusing sometimes. Okay, I think that's good. I like having naturally flowing lines for the most part. So, you can start to see it's starting to take shape here a little bit. But as a whole, once we actually work on this wing project, it'll look much nicer, I think. And okay, so it's got lines here. Okay, that's good. I think that's good enough. Okay, I think this is fairly good enough for design. These lines here, I'm just gonna ignore it. I think the only main takeaway is I just want the colors. Actually, you know what? This part right here has like little details. So let me just add that in. It's pretty simple. Okay, so this one looks like it's got little circles, like inner circles or something. So let me add that in here. I think that would be a nice addition to this one. So let me add that in here real quick. Okay, so I think that's good enough. Yeah, definitely agree with making them different thicknesses. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it just gets confusing. Even for me, it gets confusing. I'm like, what was I thinking there? Like sometimes if I print out my patterns, you know, it's been a while since I last worked on them, and I'm like, what was I thinking? I had to make it easy for myself to understand, because even me, I'm just like, what? Okay, let me delete that node here. Okay. Okay, I think that's good enough. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all these veiny parts here, and I'm gonna switch them over to the other layer. I just want to make sure. Oh snap! I accidentally deselected those. Just the veins. The other thin layers can stay. Did I accidentally click? Sometimes you have to check to see like what did you click, so just move it around a little bit. So in this case, I'm okay so far. So what I like to do is I like to group these and then continue to grab these and group them as I go along, and then see that it's just those vein parts. And let me continue to group them up with these other little vein parts, or you could just deselect it and work on this as a separate group. And because I know these are a lot of details to worry about. Group that. Did it? Okay, we forgot one piece right here. Yeah, those inner circles remind me of butterfly wings. Yeah, I mean, these kind of remind me also of butterfly wings, so it's kind of giving us that cool effect. You know, I feel like I should add some more of those circles in there. I probably might. Yeah, okay, so let's see here. We're grabbing some more of these veiny parts. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you need to actually deselect some of these veiny parts, the opposite of grouping them together is a Shift Control G. So those are like important keybinds to keep in mind, is the grouping keybind and the ungrouping keybind. So for here, for example, let me group these together to show you an example. And yeah, I do have a Twitch, but the question was, or this, okay, I didn't realize I have a Twitch. Yeah, I do have a Twitch. It's just I rarely stream. I only stream on demand, like, cause you know I used to stream before. I just don't have time for it. The time that I want to set for it, cause it's a lot of prep for me to have to do. I got a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, so this is how I group my vectors together like that. And if you want to ungroup your vectors, if you want to work on a certain amount of time, you just do Shift Control G, and then you unclick, and then keep doing it until it's all broken up into pieces like this. So there you go. But for this purpose, I'm going to keep it grouped. Yeah, so there we go with that. Okay, so I think we've got all these parts grouped up together, so you can kind of test to see if it is. Let me actually make this part dimmer, because the whole point of this is we're going to put them on a different layer and then make them thinner. Okay, so there's these. We're just going to speed this up a little bit right here. Okay. Okay, I forgot this vein right here. Okay, so I think I got everything for the most part right here. Those lines that we made. These little bits and pieces. Okay, I think that's good enough. Okay, so if you can see, I'm gonna right click on that selected box and go to move to layer, and then we're gonna move it to veins. I think, did I accidentally do that already? Oh, I must have already worked with it already. So yeah, so I want to change the thickness of this particular one now and switch it to 0.3 as we did earlier. So you're going to highlight this whole area and go to fill and stroke, and then right here you're going to switch it's already set to point, so you're going to want to switch it to 0.3 since it defaults to 0.75, and there you have it. It's thinner now. So you can see the little vectors that we worked on earlier at the beginning of the stream are thicker, and then these ones right here are thinner, so now you can tell the difference. So now let's remove the reference picture, and you can see that is the completed, for the most part, vector that we did. And yeah, I don't really pre-color my vectors because, again, not everybody has a colored printer. So you just have to rely on the fact that we need to be able to distinguish the different layers without having to use colors. So I'm gonna lock this layer here. And I'm gonna just add some more of these little circle things because I noticed they were missing, but just personal preference, I'm just adding them in here. I like that little butterfly effect thing. That looks cool. Okay. So right here, I am just adding the little circles. Okay, and then I know these are gonna be a little more difficult to cut out. I do know that cutting out curves is a little challenging even with a blade, so that will be a whole separate topic in itself that I can talk about either on Instagram or on my social media channels. Okay, so there we go with those, and you can see we have now completed the Sprite darter wing pattern. Just to kind of wrap it up right here, I'm gonna just add maybe some like thingy here. I want to say this is just for like attaching to like a PVC pipe or whatnot. I'm just gonna like add like a thingy here. Okay, I'm trying to select you. Why can't you select? So I want to connect my node right here so it turns red, just like that, and then just simple like this. It doesn't have to look fancy. It's just like that. I mean, who's gonna look at your stuff anyway, right? Yeah, so there's that. That's pretty much it. Okay, so let's just say, do I have a ruler? Oh, okay, so I do have a ruler. So yeah, so if you want to, you know, my favorite method of scaling these is getting like flexible tape. So let's grab some flexible tape, flexible measuring tape. I'm off the screen right now, I know. So here's my flexible tape that I like to use. It's just in a roll, but you can get it anywhere at any sewing machine store or sewing store. For the sakes and purposes, I'm working with inches since we're here in the US. We use imperial units. So you want to grab your flexible tape or like a yardstick, and for right here, let's say for my wing sizes, on average, I prefer to use a around 26 to 30 inches is what I like to work with of a width sometimes. So let's just say we want to make my wing size 30 inches, or that's about almost 80 centimeters in metric units, people's countries, metric people, whatever. Anyways. 80 centimeters or a little, it's actually 77 centimeters. Anyways, so let's just say we're gonna switch my wing width to 30 inches. So what we're gonna do is, I'm going to group these together. I mean, it's up to you if you want to group these together for your two layers. I mean, it's not bad to. It's probably best that you should if you feel like you're done with that section. So I'll just go ahead and group them all. So now you can see all all the layers are grouped together here. But you can always deselect them later. So since we measured our wing span that we want to do, you're going to want to take this and you can draw like a single line here. So a node there and a node there. So that's your little line. For my own purpose, I'm just going to put PT and let's make it red just for my own purpose. So right now it's going to be, so you take this tool or you can press the letter M on your keyboard. So M to bring up your tool, and you're gonna hold this here, and you just basically you click and drag on the points, the end points here. So right now it's showing as 150 millimeters right here. I like to show it in inches for this purpose. So I'm gonna display units. You go to your file and document properties. And you're going to want to go to display units and then inches. So for those of you guys who are tuning in, what I'm doing right now is we just finished our vector design here, and we're going to scale it up to size, because remember at the beginning I said don't worry about scaling just yet. I would worry about scaling for this particular design at the end. So you'll take your inches or centimeters, whatever you want to do it in, and right now it's set to 7.11 inches, and that would be, I'm gonna do some math here. You don't have to actually do this, but this is just for math. So let me just make this here. So I do have a separate video on YouTube as how to do cosplay scaling, but for this particular stream I'm gonna take the concepts in that YouTube video and we're gonna put it in here on Inkscape, so you guys will know how to properly and accurately scale your design in here, so when you print it out it's perfectly to scale. Okay, so you're gonna so taking the concepts from there, this 100% is my 100% currently scale, so this is 100%. Again, you don't have to do this, you can just do this by hand. I like to do it like on a piece of note, like a post-it note. So this is currently at 100% scale. We want to scale it up. Okay, so we're gonna measure this. And right now you can see it's at 7.10 inches here as measured as my 100% scale. So what was it? Wow, I already forgot. 7.11 inches. If you're going to measure in centimeters, you just want to make sure that your scale or units of measurement are consistent with each other. So don't interchange inches with centimeters and vice versa. Okay, so I made that red line because that's the line that I'm going to use to scale up with. 7.11 inches. So I'll put here 7.11 inches. Okay, so and then now this is going to be equal. We're going to use our ratio and proportions little math formula here. If you guys use websites like knifegun.com, this uses the same exact formula when scaling. I'm going to play some Celestial. Let Rebecca know about this video. She's really into sketching and digital art. Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is not really like much sketching. It's more for like a cosplay patterning. But I mean, the same concepts apply. This is free software. So, all right, well, have fun. Thank you for joining me for this. Okay, so again, we're gonna continue with our ratio here, our math formula. When I already showed you guys, I used my little flexible tape here because I already determined what size I want it to be. So in this case, I want my wing span to be 30 inches where that line is. So yeah, this is 30 inches, so it's like a wing like this, 30 inches. And yeah, sure, no problem. And that's a little about 77 give or take centimeters, but again, I'm gonna work in inches. Okay, so we want to put in right here the number that we want to end up at because we don't know what percent to put it in. So it's gonna be 30 inches right here. So this is just for your own reference. This is the scale I drew in. Okay, which is right here. So I'm just kind of drawing some arrows for your own purpose here. And let me just doing this real quick, just kind of like an explanation. Let's set this to like 3. So this is the scale I drew in. And then this will be the scale that I want it in. The actual scale I want. And look at the red line. Okay, so that's kind of like a reference point right there. The actual scale I want is 30 inches. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit of math here. So if you guys know your basic algebra, you wanna crisscross these two. So let's say 100 times, let's see, 100 times 30 is equal to 7.11 times, we don't know. So we're gonna put like X or something, or a question mark, or I don't know, some variable. We'll use like X or whatever. Okay, so you do some math. So 300. Again, you can do this with a calculator. It doesn't matter. So it's gonna be 7.11x, and then okay, let's grab our little calculator here. Okay, so 3. Wow, no, it's 3,000. Wow, not 300. It's 3,000. Okay, so 100 times 30 is 3,000. Now you're gonna divide it by 7.11, and this is your number, 4.29, whatever it is. So your that's gonna be your percent. So what this means is you're gonna scale up from this image by 421.94%. So that's a little bit of math for you there. So that's how I do my scaling up patterns. I'm learning so much. I had trouble finding the right scale when I print my patterns. Yeah, it's kind of a trial and error, but yeah, it's very similar to knifegun.com. So knifegun uses a thing where you plug in your reference picture, but you have to know how big you want your stuff. So if you have an idea how big you want your cosplay parts to be, so in this case again, it's gonna be 30 inches. I have a video demonstration of this on my YouTube channel. I'm just taking the same concepts here. So you take it to 30 inches, so we know now this is the number, the magic number that we want. So bold that. Okay, so in Inkscape, what this means is, I'm just gonna move this off to the side right here. When you select all your pieces, you want to make sure you select everything, and not just like certain layers. You want to select everything. So you're gonna, now this little part where I mentioned in the beginning that was not really as important earlier, you want to have this window up. So if you don't see it, I believe it might be view toolbars or something. I would just leave it as the default or whatnot. So yeah, so if you were missing that toolbar, you can go to object and then transform. But in my case, it's already here. So you take this transform right here, you're gonna go right here where it says scale, okay, and then you're gonna select scale proportionally, because we're not changing the height, or we're not stretching one direction. We're actually stretching like this, not like this or this. We're stretching like this. So that's what proportionally means. So now you take your 421% here that we just did the math for, and you just put it in here. You just plug it in, not 94. And when you select scale proportionally, it does it for both. So if you select apply, now you can see that's your actual size that you want. That's like, oh, it's the most fun part right here is the scaling. So make sure you select apply to each object separately, because if you don't do that, this is what happens. It sometimes gets all weird. So let's go back here. I mean, as long as all the pieces are together, that's all that matters. So again, it's 421.94%, and you just press apply, and then that's it. You don't have to worry about anything else. So for sakes and purposes, like here you can see if you want to double check the actual measurement here, you get your measurement tool, or press M, or you can select it here and click and drag here and drag it all the way to front, from this point to this point, you know, that red line we just drew, and you can see here it's 29.99 inches, which again is pretty much 30 inches. So you can be rest assured that this exact drawing is already to scale. So there's that. And when you do print it out, when you want to save it, what I like to do is, if you plan on saving this, you know, to tile to your pages and stuff, you just select this whole entire drawing here and press File, Document Properties. And you can select like the paper size. So you can see US letter is US letter, but this is your print area. It gets a little complex when you do that. So so I know the dimensions of this. If you want to get the dimensions of your drawing, just select your drawing and go File, Print, or File, Document Properties, Resize Page to Content, and then Resize Page to Drawing or Selection. So that would be it. And if you save your PDF like this, you can know that it's, let's see, Document Properties, it's going to be 29 inches by 33 inches. So just kind of a reference, when you are dealing with wide format printers, wide format rolls tend to run in 36 inches or 44-inch rolls, I believe. So sometimes you have to keep in mind the constraints if you're going to go with wide format printing. So, you know, when I have my cosplay patterns, I try to keep it like within those constraints or paper sizes, because, you know, some people will want to take the drawings to, like, let's just say FedEx, and then you want to do your wide format printing there. You want to make sure it's set to 100% scale, like no scaling is done on the printer driver. So that's something to keep in mind. And let's just save it like this. So let's go save a file, save as a PDF. You can save it directly as a PDF. I'm just going to remove this red line. So just keep in mind, anything in this box will get saved as a PDF. But when you are printing, one other thing to keep in mind too is that there will be like margins when you print. So you don't want to save it too close to here. But for this I'll just keep it that way. But when you're working with printing, when you do tile printing, Adobe will naturally add margins for safety measures, so you don't cut off parts of the image. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So I'm going to save it, and we're just going to go straight up save as PDF. Where's my PDF here? Okay, so Sprite Darter in-game PDF. You just leave everything as default. You don't have to change anything. And there you have it. There's my PDF. So I'm going to go and search for my PDF here. So Inkscape project, Sprite Darter ref pics. So there's my PDF here. Let me go ahead and open it and see how it looks. Okay, so there's our finished Sprite Darter wing. Yay! It's like, that's the fun part. Okay, the question is, do you always take your patterns to a store to print, so it's printing a large paper? Yes, I can do that. I actually work in a lab where I do have access to wide format printers, but I use it only for personal use. So I just kind of work with experimenting with a printer driver to see what works for my own setup. But yes, ideally you can take this like FedEx. FedEx, I think, mostly does all of these. Any print shop that has access to what's called a wide format printer. For me, I specialize in mainly Canon branded printers, since that's what I work with exclusively. And their line is the Image Prograph series. That's kind of like the brand for that one. But we do, if you want to find those, you can find them in like any FedEx place that has wide format. I don't know what the prices are, but you can always inquire. And make sure when you do print on wide format printing, I would recommend using like thinner paper, because obviously it's cheaper. So plain paper works fine. Like, I work fine with plain paper. You don't want to add like cardboard because it gets more pricey, but I mean, cardboard's always usually better to work with because they obviously last longer. They're more durable when you're tracing stuff on your materials like foam or Worbla, whatever you're using. So that's it here. That's pretty much the wing, and of course you just have to mirror everything. So if you want to see how it looks like when you mirror it, you can just select this, you can copy it, paste a copy of this, and then just put it on top there. And here's to flip the design so it looks like this when you have wings. So it looks pretty cool. Yay! So now that's pretty much it. That covers my whole tutorial on doing, you know, a pattern from scratch. So if you do see a saved version of this video, it's pretty much like yeah, we started from absolute scratch. So that's like a little more than an hour, since I went a little slow on some parts. And yeah, there you have it. So I'll just kind of modify this pattern a little bit so I have it in a more like organized way, but that's just kind of a rough way how I do it. So when you look at your file size of your PDF, you can hover on the bottom left of your PDF and it shows us 29.75 by 33.22 inches. Again, I'm in the US, so I use imperial units, but I don't know what size wide formats usually come in Europe, but I mean, it's pretty universal. If you want to save this or print it out, you'll go to, I have full printing instructions on my website, and you're gonna mainly print tile printing. So you go to file print as if you're printing a poster. So from here you bring up your print dialog and it pulls up your local PC's printers. So when you do this and you print on, you know, like a regular PC that has only A4 size for European or US letter for imperial units, you go page scaling and you make sure it's set to none, or in this case, because it's a wide format or big old printer size, you're gonna go page scaling and tile all pages. Okay, so right there, that's pretty much all you have to do for either A4 or US letter. And for this one, this will come out to be looks like 15 pages because it adds really wide margins on there for safety. Because if you do print out wide format, one thing to keep in mind is when you are working with wide format designs, just ensure that the person who is drawing the image adds margins in there, because it will get cut off when you do printing. All printers have some sort of margin area. They can't do a full bleed. That's just the way that the printers print out. Like, that's just the specs of the printer for mechanical reasons. So that's pretty much it. So from here, I'm not going to actually print it out, but that's the concept of this. When you do assemble it, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just kind of line up the lines together. Yeah, so that covers it. I think we're pretty much cool from here. So again, I'll have 3 different versions of these Sprite Darter wings, and I'll probably have like a time lapse maybe of a different version, and yeah, that pretty much covers it. Yay! I'm so glad we finished it. Okay, well, that being said, thank you again for joining my stream, and we will just keep in touch on social media and whatnot. Feel free to ask me any questions offline or whatnot. So yeah, thanks again, and you guys have a good day. Thank you.